The Absa Cape Epic takes mountain bikers through hundreds of kilometres of pristine fynbos every year. The Cape Floral Kingdom's endemic vegetation's collective name refers to the fine leaves of many of the fynbos plants. Similar to the heath of the Scottish Highlands, it boasts an incredible biodiversity and a relatively small geographic region, isolated within the Western Cape province. 6,000 or 80% of the 8,500 species which are characterized as fynbos are in fact endemic to the region. Fynbos also supports an incredible array of insects, many of which are specialized to fertilize one particular plant species. There is prolific bird life as well as a number of small antelope species, baboon and of course the Cape leopard. Proteas are the most iconic jewel of the fynbos flora, and a bouquet featuring an endemic arrangement including magnificent proteas are awarded to each of the race's stage winners. Stage 2 would take in more spectacular trails through pristine fynbos and offer fresh opportunities to earn those winners' bouquets, as BUFF-Megamo and Ghost Factory Racing had done the day before. Stage 1 had seen a tactical battle at the sharp end of the UCI men's race across the first half of the course. The notable talking points were two crashes for Toyota Specialized 91's Howard Grotz, though he and Matt Beers made it back to the favourites group on each occasion. The Clipperfy Trail spread the leading group and thinned the field to breaking point as Obeah-led Speed Company and BUFF-Megamo put their rivals under pressure. Unfortunately for Lucas Baum and Georg Egger, their efforts told on their own legs too, which meant that Hans Becking, Bart Alleman, Nino Schurter and Sebastian Finney were handed the advantage. Grotz and Beers were on the back foot scaling the final climb of Funty's Pass, but were still in contact with the front of the race. Over the summit, Toyota Specialized 91 dragged themselves back to parity with the leaders, but a small crash for Beers removed them from contention for the sprint finish. When it came down to it, Finney snapped his chain, while Becking and Alleman powered across the line. Schurter and his Danish teammate maintained their hold on yellow, ceding just 2 seconds to the day's winners. Heading into Stage 2, World Bicycle Relief lead Toyota Specialized 91 by 1 minute and 10 seconds, with BUFF-Megamo further 20 seconds back. Honeycomb Pro Cycling wore the Absa African jerseys into Stage 2. In the Aramex women's race, the day began with concerns over Mona Mittenwaller's health. The Austrian double marathon world champion eased her way into the stage and felt better the longer the day wore on. The steady first half of the day aided her recovery. By the time Ghost Factory Racing and Specialized Toyota 91 upped the pace in the Clipperfy Trails, the Cannondale Factory Racing team were ready to respond. The first of the favourites to be distanced were Vera Losser and Alexis Skada. 10 kilometres later, Sofia Gomez-Villafana and Samara Shepherd slipped off the back of the group, leaving Mitterwaldner and Lille to battle it out with Terpstra and Nicole Koller on Funty's Pass. The teams could not be separated, however, and Lady Luck continued to shine on Ghost Factory Racing. Koller nearly hit a Steenbok but managed to brake in time to avoid disaster. That good luck continued to the finish line, where Ghost Factory Racing outsprinted Cannondale Factory Racing to claim their second successive stage victory. The result meant that Ghost Factory Racing squeezed an additional second into their general classification lead, taking it to 1 minute and 6 seconds overall. Toyota Specialized 91 would start Stage 2 6 minutes and 12 seconds back in third. Stage 2 would be a rugged day out in the Witzenberg. Located to the east of the Tilbach Valley, reaching the single-track packed Vale would require a nearly 1,000-metre ascent of an Old Wagon Trail. Then it was into the trails among rocks and protea and tedas before climbing once more back to the Wagon Trail. The return to Saronsberg followed the Wagon Trail downhill, taking the day's total kilometres to 97 with 2,200 metres of climbing. Ahead of the stage, the top teams all knew it would be a difficult day with lots of potential for punctures and issues.
Yeah, the early wake-ups, they hurt for sure. But today will be again a nice stage. Maybe difficult to make some gaps today, but still it's a long week, so probably, or maybe today will be a day to save some energy. And yeah, let's see, the weather is nice again. The terrain here, it's super nice, so looking forward to today.
Yeah, for sure today is a big climb at the beginning. There we want to be at the front for sure. Then yeah, it's a fast race at the up there. and then it's a long downhill to the finish, and let's see what the day will unfold.
With the longest stage of the 2024 race ahead, the UCI men set out like they were taking on a course half as long. Racing off the fields of Saronsberg, the battle for placings in the pack would be more important than ever, as getting caught in the dust could easily lead to hitting a sharp rock. In the Aramex women's race, the leading protagonists were also expecting another challenging day out on the trails.
We are in the second stage today. I think it will be a long uphill to start with, and yeah, we come exactly the same trail down, so I think we will check some lines at least to see how it is, and yeah, the rest we will see how tactics play, and yeah.
Rolling off the start line, the women's 97-kilometre odyssey got underway. The fresh morning temperatures belying the sweltering heat which awaited the entire Absa Cape Epic field in the Victories Valley. It would be a day to survive for many. Even among the elite UCI women's teams, there would be major incidents and time losses. Having powered off the start line, the UCI men were wasting no time in getting to the base of the climb. In fact, BUFF-Megamo were doing their best to splinter the field and reduce the group from 54 teams to less than 10. Then Beers took up the task and further stretched the line behind to single file. But even that didn't stop the counterattacks coming from Obeer Speed Company. Egger's attack created gaps behind and forced the men behind him to descend recklessly across broken ground in order to remain in contact with the German. This was only going to end one way, in punctures. Finney was the rider to succumb at the most inopportune moment, just 5 kilometres from the base of the climb. This left the Dane and Schurter with a madcap chase through the remaining dual track, hoping against hope that they'd be able to get back to the front before the single track began. As the slopes ramped, Alleman came to the fore and set a fierce tempo. Behind, Schurter and Finney were having to pick their way past mid-pack teams, burning valuable matches as they did. The European Marathon Champions pace kept the long line of teams strung out across the mountainside. Gaps formed behind, growing from a single metre or second to tens of metres or tens of seconds. This was hampering World Bicycle Relief's comeback attempt, but it was working well in the favour of the men in yellow's general classification rivals. With BUFF-Megamo clearly feeling strong and keen on providing Becking with a 38th birthday present, they were eager to keep the pressure on. Though they would have to be cognizant of the fact that they were helping Toyota Specialized 91 gain time on the race leaders too. Approaching the summit of the Old Wagon Trail, only Beers and Grotz were still in contact with Alleman and Becking. The technicality of the route was slowing even the best climbers in the race to a snail's pace. Despite this, they remained faster than the men behind, many of whom were forced to put a foot down or even dismount and run. In a battle of inches, those extra heartbeats count and allowed the quartet at the front to reach the peak, having expended less energy. On the descent into the Victories Valley, BUFF-Megamo and Toyota Specialized 91 led through the keyhole, followed by a pack containing the Obeer Speed Company combination, the Willia Vittoria team of Fabian Ravenstein and Samuele Porro, and the Canyon City squad of Andreas Seewald and Mark Stutzman. Schurter and Finney were next through, 1 minute back. They had the tough task of chasing a Beers-powered freight train which was flying across the flats. Baum, Egger, Ravenstein and Porro were nearly matching Beers' pace. But World Bicycle Relief was ceding seconds. A bit further back, Honeycomb's Tristan Nokia and Mark Pritson were the top-performing Absa African team after an hour of racing. In the Aramex women's race, those first 12 kilometres were ridden at a higher intensity than in the previous day's opening moments. The threat of getting caught out behind slower teams on the long single-track climb had Toyota Specialized 91 forcing the tempo. The plan worked to perfection for Gomez Viefan and Shepherd as they were joined at the front when the course constricted to a narrow and technical trail by Cannondale Factory Racing and Ghost Factory Racing. Though even the very best women in the race were forced off their bikes at times by the steepness of the gradient. Behind them, Lorsa was experiencing mechanical difficulties. She and Skada lost valuable minutes tracking down the issue. Ahead, Koller and Lil led their teammates and rivals through the hole in the wall and down into the Witzenberg Valley. Once on the undulating valley floor, the Toyota Specialized 91 team came to the fore once more and drove the tempo in order to maximize their gains over the stricken efficient Infinity Insure SCB SRAM combination. In a long stage race like the Absa Cape Epic, opportunities to put time into a key rival should not be passed by. Anything can happen later in the week and secure advantages can easily evaporate. Unfortunately for Gomez Viefan and Shepherd, the two factory racing squads were more intent on marking each other and thus conserved energy when they got the chance to take control of the group again. Separated by just over a minute on the general classification, they did not want to give the other a free ride. The pace thus slowed as Cannondale Factory Racing and the women in orange, Ghost Factory Racing, played cat and mouse. Until, that is, Lil's luck turned, handing Terpstra and Koller a reason to increase their speed. Having suffered a front wheel puncture in the orchards, Lil had to stop to reinflate her tyre. With Lil and Mitterwallner on the back foot, Ghost Factory Racing and Toyota Specialized 91 forged ahead with more intensity, forcing Cannondale Factory Racing into a high-speed chase. On the open roads, the South African champion could make inroads into the deficit, while on the single tracks they exercised patience, biding their time, knowing the gap was not growing. By water point 2, 48 kilometres into the 97 kilometre stage, the catch had been made and the race was reset, all square between the top three teams. Epic legend, 5-time UCI men's race winner and 2-time NTT Data Masters champion Carl Platt started his 20th Absa Cape Epic in 2024. The Team Bullstar did not finish the 2014 and 2021 races, but has been an ever-present throughout the race's two-decade history.
So when I look back when the Epic started in 2004, it was more like an adventure race. I mean, it's completely clear that they have to improve and to learn. But the learning curve was so big and so good. So I would say from 2007, it became like the Tour de France of mountain biking. And they're still improving. Every year they bring a little bit more spice into the whole thing. And now we're having the best tracks in the world, I would say. So if I look on the tracks on the stages this year, it's so nice and it's so special. We have some really special stages with great views, yeah, it's just unbelievable. And the atmosphere here with the pros and the media and everything around. I mean, there are more than 3,000 people acting in the whole race. It is something very special where people want to be. I think as a Masters rider, it gives you a complete new opportunity. You're still on a high level of your class, but if you want to race with the young guns, it's just not impossible. Yeah, I mean, I train the half of the early days and I'm not that focused anymore. I drink my beer, I drink my wine, and I'm not looking or watching after food. So it gives you a great opportunity still to be like on 90% or 95%, being fit, but it's still a lot of fun to ride. So for me, it's a huge privilege to be still in the race as a master rider, enjoying and still fighting with other people. But the mindset is now a little bit more different because I'm not taking it too serious. If you win, it's nice. If you not win, it's also nice because the beer tastes still the same.
After 3 days of racing in the 2024 edition, Platt is en route to a third NTT Data Masters title alongside Thomas Misser for the second time. Unimed Forlab a second, 43 minutes back, with Craig Uriah and Michael Posthumus a further 37 minutes down after having to run a bike with a broken rear wheel to the finish on stage 2. In the men's race, the Beers-led front group were charging on, remaining just out of touch of the chasing pack. The pack had 5 men in it, with only a single Canyon City rider present. World Bicycle Relief were not giving up the chase. Schurter and Finney were relentless in their efforts, especially whenever the trails pitched uphill. Ahead, Obeer-led Speed Company had bridged across to Toyota Specialized 91 and BUFF-Megamo. Having been forced to wait, Stutzman was reunited with his Canyon City teammate Seevold. Ravensteiner and Porro had also dropped off the pace, though they were ahead of Canyon City and the hard-charging men in yellow. Schurter and Finney did not know if their efforts were doing them any good in pursuit of the leaders. In the Hanekom Brothers trails, the pace at the front slowed. The snaking train of 6 riders was unable to match the speed of the more nimble chasing duo behind them. Ravensteiner and Porro made the catch and joined Beers, Grotz, Becking, Alleman, Egger and Baum at the front just in time for the next moment of drama. In a rocky section of trail, Beers smashed his wheel into a sharp edge. The resulting impact cracked the rim, but somehow it held the air when re-inflated. Obeer-led Speed Company, BUFF-Megamo and Willia Vittoria looked to exploit the Toyota Specialized 91 men's misfortune, but the rush left Ravensteiner and Porro with a similar issue. A sidewall puncture required a plug and a bomb and kept the Italian team stationary on the side of the trails until Beers and Grotz passed them by. Back on their bikes, Beers was nursing his rear wheel, which brought Schurter and Finney back into the mix again, though they had yet to receive that news. Out front, Alleman and Becking had begun the final climb and had distanced Baum and Egger. On the lower slopes of the climb, World Bicycle Relief and Canyon City had caught Toyota Specialized 91. There was no catching BUFF-Megamo, however. They were maintaining their advantage over Schurter and Finney. Obeer-led Speed Company were next to be overhauled. Out front, Alleman and Becking began the wagon trail descent with a 2-minute advantage on the men behind. They were clearly loving the technical trail, and even a slight mistake by the Dutch marathon champion did not dampen their speed. Even Schurter and Finney, despite the speed at which they assaulted the Toyota Tough segment, were unable to make a dent in BUFF-Megamo's lead, though they had fun trying. Back on the valley roads towards Saronsberg, Alleman and Becking were riding to an historic victory. Behind them, a 3-way team time trial was unfolding. BUFF-Megamo crossed the line elated, then waited for a time check. By the time World Bicycle Relief sprinted home, Alleman and Becking knew they had done enough to leapfrog from 3rd to 1st on the general classification.
Well, I have not so much to say. Crazy day. We felt both good and we attacked on the last climb and it was super hard. Then we just did that. We take the leaders jersey. Wow. It's been a childhood dream, and you know that it comes true now. It's crazy, and you know,
He's crying.
with one of my best friends, it's something special.
Wow, it's a pleasure to ride with him. The last 10 kilometers I was just shouting, "Man, go easy, because the old man is on the limit." But it's my birthday today and we have a yellow jersey. That means we don't have to clean the clothes this afternoon, which is quite good. I have to do it with a friend, and we have such an amazing team. And I think since you can remember, Buff is coming to the Cape Epic, and to have the honor to have the first yellow jersey for all their work is just an absolutely pleasure. And I'm proud of them, proud of him, and proud of the old man now.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough day. Finney had a flat after 7 Ks just before the climb started, so we had to there's a lot of teams then in the uphill. And also at the top, in all the flat sections, we have been all alone. And we saw the teams in front working nicely together, and it was like a tough day, and we tried to go as steady as possible, to not to blow us, but I also struggled with the heat at the end, so it was a tough day, but still a long way, a lot of trails coming up, and I think there we can make up some time then.
After their Stage 1 success, it was Becking and Alleman's second time on top of an Absa Cape Epic podium, but Stage 2 was Bauermanegger's first trip to the dais in the race. More importantly for the day's winners was their 2-minute and 2-second margin of victory. Behind them, only 10 seconds separated Schurter and Finney in second from Beers and Grotz in fourth. The yellow Ciovita jerseys were BUFF-Megamo's first in their storied history with the Absa Cape Epic. They now lead the 20th edition of the race by 32 seconds over World Bicycle Relief. Toyota Specialized 91 are 1:52 back, with Orbea Liet Speed Company a further 5.5 minutes back. In the fierce Absa African jersey battle, Page Eurosteel's Philip Bass and Peter de Toy lead Toyota Specialized by just 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Cannondale Factory Racing still led the Aramex women's favourites group, a fact which was not to the liking of Gomez Villafan, though the Argentine was unwilling to drive up the tempo herself. As a result, the efficient Infinity Insure SEB SRAM team were riding their way back into contention after having lost nearly 7 minutes with their early mechanical. By the time the leaders began the final climb, all 4 teams of pre-race favourites were present and accounted for in the group. Lawson and Skada had ridden hard to get back to parity on the trails, and with the pair most visibly feeling the strain of the rising heat as they passed through the third water point. Even a bottle of ice water overhead did little to cool the American champion. Behind the quartet, the E4 Private Client Holdings team of Lena Gerol and Haley Preen were riding a lonely race in fifth. When the gradient steepened and the surface got rougher, the efforts Lossa and Skada had made earlier saw them dropped by the Cannondale Factory Racing, Ghost Factory Racing and Toyota Specialized 91 teams. Under the pressure of Terpstra, the remaining trio of teams were stretched to breaking point too. Though worryingly, Koller was often the rider at the back of the group. The Swiss rider did not relinquish her grip on the group, however, and Gomez Villafan and Shepherd were distanced. Near the summit, Mitterwaldner forced her way to the front in order to control the speed on the descent. The Austrian led the remaining riders into the Toyota Tough segment and down towards the Tilbach Valley far below. The diminutive star then continued to drive the pace until she got word that her partner was nursing another puncture. A slow flat was deflating Nils' chances of victory. After 5 kilometres of slow-speed cat and mouse, the Ghost Factory Racing team kicked away from a half-crippled Canyon Factory Racing. They quickly opened up a handful of second lead and then held it with a powerful drive towards the line. Swooping into Saronsberg, they made it a perfect 3 from 3.
What exactly happened at the beginning, I didn't really know. Suddenly Cannondale was gone. But to be honest, the day was still so long. I don't think anybody really wanted to be on their own at that moment. So we still kind of took control and wanted to be like at least good at the front on the single track part, and we did. But of course they came back and we just had a nice group ride basically until we went up that climb. There the pace went a bit up a bit. Yeah, but I think we're at similar strength when it comes to climbing, so we came at the top together again. And then, we had some time to talk. I saw they were talking. I think after they lost the sprint against us yesterday, they wanted to give some punches early on. But we could hang on and we could also talk a bit. So we just decided to try something else and risk it. But that worked out well for us. We thought we'd just try to pass them, get a gap, and then see if we make it until the finish line.
I was riding through, it wasn't even on the descent, I was riding through a grassy field, and I all of a sudden just heard pshh, and then I thought, okay, it would be okay, it's sealed, but then I knew it's still coming and my tire was flat.
I guess I can't do
so it wasn't really safe to carry on like that. Something worse would have happened. So I had to stop and vomit. And it actually held the whole stage. But when I put the air in, I put it really hard in case it was carrying on leaking. So I rode the whole day a really hard front tire. And on the last descent, I think because it was not a pressure that I'm used to, something happened again, and I flattered it. So I rode on luckily we have inserts, and I rode on the insert to the finish.
After their hat-trick of stage victories, Terpstra and Koller were joined on the podium once again by Lil and Mitterwaldner, as well as Gomez Villafan and Shepard. Behind the top three, Loss and Skada conceded 7 minutes on the day, while Giraud and Preen were a further 2 minutes and 53 seconds back. For the third day in a row, Ghost Factory Racing earned a fresh set of Aramex Ciovita Leaders jerseys. Ghost Factory Racing thus lead Cannondale Factory Racing by 1 minute and 13 seconds. Toyota Specialized 91 are third at 6:37. The first transition stage in the 2024 race takes the teams from Saronsberg in Tulbach to the CPUT campus in Wellington. The route is 94 kilometres long with 2,100 metres of climbing. It takes in rugged riding in the Zuurvlakte, over Blueberry Hill and down Full Monty, but also the silky smooth asphalt of Bainskloof Pass.